I said that I wasn't gonna try and do too many monthly or yearly reading challenges in 2026, and I was gonna focus more on my own personal reading goals. And I am, mostly. But one of the challenges that I do want to keep doing is BooksandLala's Buzzword challenge. This has ran for a few years now, and I think I've always taken part to some extent. One of the things that I really like about this challenge is that we get all the prompts up front at the beginning of the year, and Kayla doesn't mind whether you do them one a month as intended, one a month mixing the prompts up, or do them all at once, do them however you feel like. And that really works for me because I'd like to do one a month, but the one a month might not always be the prompt you're meant to be doing that month, and it gives me the option to catch up or get ahead depending on what I happen to be reading for other challenges or other goals at any given time. There are two kind of parts to the Buzzword challenge now. There is the original title challenge, where each month we are either given a very specific word or a category of words, and you have to find that word in the title. Then the cover challenge is a newer addition. I think that's been maybe just last year. The point of this one is, again, we either get a specific item or a category of items, and you have to find that somewhere on the cover. Sometimes this is physically specific, like a musical instrument, and other times it's more a general design feature like a border or foiling. This video is going to be me going through both parts of the challenges and giving you something between a TBR and a pile of possibilities. They're the books that are on my radar, either on my physical shelf or on my I need to buy it TBR, that I think fit the prompts and I'm still really interested in reading. I'm hoping that this might give you some ideas for any of the prompts that you're stuck on, but also it means that in a few months' time, when I start to struggle, I can come back to this video and I can look at the books I was really excited about and hopefully re-inspire myself if I'm falling behind. I'm going to start with the title challenge. We'll go through all the months for that, and then we'll switch over and do the cover challenge. The January prompt is before and after, so we have to find either specifically before or after in the title. I am doing Avatar 4 Nations this month and Winterween, and obviously my own prompts that came from my TBR game, TBR Tailspin. I'm going to link that video that talks about all my January reading plans in the description, but suffice to say there were no books that had either before or after in it, so I'm hoping I'll get to one of these this month, but this is where that flexibility is really gonna come into play right at the start. Conveniently, I have books that would fit before and after on my TBR, so it'll be a toss-up what one I go for, probably later in the year if I'm honest, just whichever one I happen to get to. The first one is Angels Before Man by Raphael Nicholas. This is a queer retelling of the fall of Lucifer. I have heard nothing but brilliant things about it. I think what's putting me off is that I'm maybe a little bit intimidated, but I think it's going to be a really good, really memorable read. I just need that extra prompting to get to it. Then for the after word, I have After the Fall by Edward Ashton. This is a 2026 release, so if I decide to go with this one, I will obviously have to wait till it comes out. This one is a dystopian world where humans are somewhere between indentured servants and pets, and it's supposedly got a bit of a buddy road trip angle to it. The February prompt is keyboard keys, so to use things that you would find on a keyboard that obviously aren't just the letters, things like shift, space, delete. I can't think of any others right now, but those sort of words. For this I have 3 books. 2 of them are more backlist and one of them is an upcoming release, so we'll just see how it falls in. In the backlist books I have A Complicated Love Story Set in Space by Sean David Hutchinson. I've not read Sean David Hutchinson's books in a while, but when I did, I think I'd read everything he had at that point. I think it's YA and a gay protagonist, but much more obviously science fiction than the books I've read from him before. Then there is An Scapegoat by Jana Rollins. This seems to be a cosy mystery about a woman who goes back to find her roots after a DNA test and ends up staying with her newfound family at a goat yoga retreat space. And thirdly, there is Start Uphill. I have really enjoyed both the previous books by Caitlin Rosakis. She has a really wry kind of way of looking at things, a kind of sense of humour that I really enjoyed. This one is her take on the corporate world, and I think she's gonna have a lot of really funny and really insightful things to say. March is This and That. The first one I have is In Case You Read This by Edward Underhill. This is a trans rom-com about two boys that meet by happenstance, a kind of missed connection while they're both in the middle of two separate road trips, and that feeling of a missed connection between them. Another highly anticipated 2026 release is Everyone in This Bank is a Thief by Benjamin Stevenson. I think this one's been getting a lot of hype, so you probably know. This is a mystery series, the Ernest Cunningham series. It's not quite cozy, it's more along the lines of an Agatha Christie classic golden age whodunit, but the writing style is really fun, where Ernest himself is a mystery writer, and it's very breaking the fourth wall, talking to the reader as the mystery's unravelling. I've had a lot of fun with all the books in the series, and I'm really looking forward to this new one. Okay, this one is a little bit more outside my comfort zone. If you're seeing this, It's Meant for You by Lee Stein. This is about a 39-year-old woman, so I like the fact we've got a slightly older protagonist, and after a breakup she goes back to the man that she dated 20 years ago and is going to help him restore this old crumbling manor house into something kind of an influencer palace. This is somewhere between a mystery and a gothic horror. We're going to do that whole manor house setting that I adore, and I think it would be really good. I Want That Twink Obliterated by Trip Gailey is an anthology, which I'm not a big short story reader. We talk about this all the time, but I do love the concept of this collection, so it might be one that I use to fill my Our Fantasy Bingo short story square. April is ordinal numbers, so these are like first, second, last, rather than one or two. The first book that I have for you is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This was kind of everywhere last year, got a lot of hype. I have a paperback copy that I got in a charity shop, but I really don't know anything about it. I just picked it up. It's meant to be a Sleepless in Seattle retelling, which is a movie I've not seen, but again I've heard a lot about. So if I pick this one up, I'll probably try and watch the film before or after. Then we have The Last Romeo by Justin Myers. I think I got it when Audible was doing some kind of 2-for-1 sale. I grabbed it, I've still not listened to it. I think it's going to be good. I haven't got around to it. I haven't been in the mood for contemporary recently, but this could be its year. The Final Curse of Ophelia Cray by Christine Calella is one that has been on my NetGalley shelf for too long. This is a queer book about pirates, about two sisters who have very different outlooks on life, ambitions, goals. When I picked it up I thought it was one thing, and then when I really read the summary and started the book it wasn't quite what I had been expecting, and that put me off in the moment, but I am still excited to read it. I just need to get back to it. May's word is very specific. It is make, and quite honestly this is one that I really struggled with. I didn't have a lot on my TBR that I thought would fit. The only book that I already own that fits here is The Watchmaker of Filigree Street by Natasha Pulley. I have been reading Pulley's books lately and I've really enjoyed how varied her books are and how much thought seems to go into each concept. This one just has been the least appealing to me, despite I think it probably being her most well-known book. While I was looking for books to fill these prompts though, I did also come across The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst. I tried The Spell Shop, I didn't like it, but really well known, really well loved author. I think I would like to give a second chance. It seems to be about maybe 5 warriors after the events that make them famous, that make them warriors, sort of in retirement and having to come back after they think they're done because the evil is not. And I think I could like that one. I think I might like that one. So that's a very high possibility. June is a one-word title and there's dozens. That's easy. It works really well that it's in June, which is my birthday month. So if I have a lot on that month, it's hopefully not a really obscure book to try and fit in. I can probably find something in whichever TBR I've already come up with. Just to put something here to have a couple of books that I'm interested in, I might go with Bromantasy by Mia Roche. This is it's a cozy fantasy about two best friends who secretly love each other. Or I might go with Zara, which has been on my TBR for so long. This one is by S.J. Jones and I think it's a kind of magical girl story, a kind of Sailor Moon story. The one word, there's plenty to pick from. These are just 2 that, they're ones that I should probably get to. In July, the prompt is occupations. So the first book that I have here is The Poet Empress. The first book that I have here is The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. My most anticipated release for January this year, so I'm hoping that I'm gonna get to it as soon as the book comes out. We will see, but if I do, this would just be filled in advance. This is a darker epic fantasy with what sounds like a really unique poetry-based magic system. Also this year, another anticipated new release, The Unicorn Hunters by Catherine Arden. I love Catherine Arden's Winter Night books, and I put her last book, The Warm Hands of Ghosts, on my 2026 priority TBR video. I was talking about how I bought that when I went to see her speak live because I love Winter Night so much. I love her writing so much. It was an auto-buy book, and then I kind of realised that it's a book set during World War I, and that just isn't a time period I particularly enjoy reading about, so it's been sat on my shelf. This one sounds so much more up my alley that I might have to just like pivot. This one is about a young queen who's trying to prevent her country from being annexed by another, and she makes a deal with a magical creature. There's a kind of secret betrothal. It sounds really dreamy, and I think it could be one of my favourites of the year. Then another really epic fantasy I've heard so many good things about, came out just last year. This is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. Hype around it was kind of slow burn. I'd seen it, I hadn't thought I would be interested in it, and then more and more people that have similar kind of tastes to mine started to really rave about it. And now it's one of the ones I definitely want to get to in this half of the year. Although it does have a scholar at the heart of it, it's also about cutthroat intrigue and competition, and it just hits a lot of my buzzwords. For August, we're doing groups and clubs and societies. The first one I have is an absolute auto by author. This is Lev A.C. Rosen's newest book. I have read, I think, everything he's put out and I've loved it. Mystery, young adult, it doesn't matter. Contemporary romance, I've loved it all. This is an adult queer contemporary story, which I think might be his first in that very specific bubble. So I'm really excited for The Disaster Gay Detective Agency. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It seems like a really summery read. It's due out in June, so this might be one that I actually do read in the month this prompt is, because August seems viable that a June book I would get to in August. Then I also have a much more backlist book here. I have The Benevolent Society of Ill-Mannered Ladies by Alison Goodman. This has been on a few TBRs. It's actually on my TBR this month for the Avatar 4 Nations readathon. I'm supposedly reading it for the prompt, a book with a fan on the cover. Assuming I get to it this month, it obviously takes it off, but if not, the 4 Nations rolls around again in July, so I could pick it up then. September is me and my, and I think mine was also included. So one of the books that I've got here is What Once Was Mine by Liz Braswell. This is one of the many books in the Disney Twisted Tales series. It has multiple authors, but I think Braswell has done a couple. This usually takes a Disney story and kind of comes at it with a what if angle. They are obviously retellings of what the Disney story is a retelling of. So like this is Rapunzel, but it's very specifically the Rapunzel that we've seen in the Disney films because these are Disney tie-ins. So I've enjoyed the ones I've read so far. I don't think they've blown me away. But as someone who does enjoy retellings anyway, I've enjoyed picking up the ones that are based on fairy tales or stories that I'm already interested in. So I think I've read The Beauty and the Beast, The Alice in Wonderland and the Hercules one. I have My Roommate from Hell by Cale Dietrich. This is one that came out I think kind of autumn, Halloween last year. It's a YA novel about a college student, which I have feelings about YA books that are college settings, but it's about a college student whose roommate is a demon from hell. I'm sure there are plenty of other me, mine, whatever words out there, but I haven't been able to think of any I'm really excited about. The prompt for October is parts of a house, so windows, doors, kitchens, that sort of thing. The first one that I have is A Series of Rooms by A.J. Barlow. This one is a gay contemporary romance, but I don't think it's a rom-com. I think it's maybe a more angst-filled book, maybe something more bittersweet. I've been eyeing it for a while on Everand. It sounds like the kind of book that will, you know, emotionally destroy me, which could be a good thing. Then I have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is, I mean, the hype around this one. You know the hype around this one. I've got I have both books in the duology on my shelf. I got them when I was going through Oslo airport. There was a buy one get one and I got them for the plane. I didn't read them. But I really want to read Rachel Gillig's newest book, The Night and the Moth. That one sounds really like that sounds really up my alley. I really want to read that one, but I kind of feel like I should read at least the first book in this duology first. So this might be the push to do that. This, I think, is about a girl with a monster that lives in her head. It's one of those kind of the first book I really remember blowing up in that kind of darker romantic-y vibe. I really feel like I should at least try it. And then I have Through Gates of, I want to say Gold and Garnet by Shauna Maguire. This is the latest. Is the latest. Maybe it's the 9th or the 10th. The latest Wayward Children series book. I love the Wayward Children. They are novellas and they're about children who have gone to other worlds, like portal fantasy worlds, and come back and then found that they no longer fit in our world. They no longer understand the way the world works, and so they go to a school that is designed for children like them. So you're talking like Alice after Alice in Wonderland or Lucy after Narnia. This one is, if I recall correctly, it is going back to the protagonist from the first book because each book has its own kind of lead, and Nancy was only with us for book one, but this is now her coming back from her world and with a new problem, needing the students from Eleanor's school to help her out basically. I had a wee routine for a while of reading these every January when they came out. They were usually my first book of the year. Really nice way to start the year off. But I missed last year's, which had a turtle on the cover. Tides Clean and Clear, something along those lines. So I would want to read that one and then this one ideally. November is instructional titles. The titles telling you to do something, you know, like clean the house. Kayla had examples in her announcement video and that's where you should go. The ones I have on this list are Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Marie Griffin. This, I think, is a vaguely Little Shop of Horrors retelling. Love that film, it's so much fun. But this obviously I think is a more horror-y version of that. I've heard mixed things, but I've had the paperback for a while and I want to try it anyway, basically. It's cannibal plants in a workplace romance setting. Then we have All Hail Chaos by Sarah Rees Brennan. This is the sequel to Long Live Evil, which I read last year, utterly adored it. That was about a woman who had end-stage cancer and she found herself thrown into the world of her and her sister's favourite book, the book they've bonded over. But when she gets there, she finds that there were parts of the story she maybe wasn't paying the most attention to, which, you know, we've all done it. And she finds herself in the role of the villain, the antagonist, the evil queen sorceress type character. And she knows the kind of what happens to the villain at the end of the story and has to try and avoid that. This one kind of picks up where we left off. Then finally in December, the category is superlatives, so words that are, you know, the best, the greatest, the fastest. A book that is coming out this year by an author I've really enjoyed in the past is The Last Best Quest Ever by F.T. Lookins. I've really enjoyed Lookins' queer romances in the past. They're usually standalones, different worlds, different really creative takes on magic, and I don't expect this to be any different. I think it'll be a really fun ride. I hope I'll get to it roundabout when it comes out. Then I have Arrival Most Vile by R.K. Ashwick. This is one that I've been seeing everywhere lately. I don't know why. It's a 2023 release, which I get isn't that old, but I feel like I've been seeing it as if it's a brand new release. 2 rival potion shop owners, and that just sounds perfect to me. The last book in this section is A Dark Most Fair by L.M. Revere. I don't know much about it. I saw this one talked about at some point by Faye at Books and Chocoholic. I can't remember what video it was, but she said it was really kind of unique and unusual, quite dark, but with really kind of pragmatic protagonists, quite a lot of politicking in it. And while I don't remember much about it, I remember thinking it sounded really up my alley, so I marked it as to read on Goodreads, and this would be a really good chance for me to get to it. Okay, so the first cover challenge prompt for January is to read body parts that are internal. So things that should generally stay on the inside. The covers that have organs, that have bones, that have blood, things like that on them. The first one that I have is Cancer Eats the Heart by Paul Jessup. This one just came out in October, and I ordered it directly from the author's website. Customs were customs, it took a little while to get here, so it didn't quite make it into my Halloween reading the way I'd planned, but I'm still really excited about it. This is about a woman who has some kind of chronic pain, lives in a small town, stumbles by happenstance upon a vampire, and has to, I guess, decide where her priorities lie in terms of what she's willing to sacrifice. Sounds like a really interesting concept. It sounds like something that's a little bit more literary than my usual vampire fiction, so I'm quite interested in picking that one up. In my more usual kind of paranormal sphere, we have The Reanimator's Heart by Kara Jorgensen. This is a queer paranormal historical with mystery elements. It sounds like the kind of thing I would quite enjoy reading in January, if I'm honest. January is probably my best bet for reading historicals, so this might be the one. And then hit up Cancer Eats the Heart in October. We'll see. February is silhouettes, so, you know, books that have the outline of a person without any real details on them. For this one, my top sort of most likely pick is one that is coming out in February. I have an arc for it, so I might read it a little bit ahead, but it's also probably my most anticipated book of the year, and I don't know whether that might make me actually put it off. We'll see. This is apparently Sir Cameron Needs to Die by Greer Struthers. It is about I don't want to say stuck up, but he sounds a bit of a douche. This is a knight who, it's revealed that due to some prophecy with an evil wizard, he has to die. And he escapes from his fellow noble knights and comes under the protection of this evil wizard, and romance ensues. It sounds amazing, and there is a silhouette of our evil sorcerer on the cover. The other one that, if I don't pick that one for the prompt, then the other one I might use is Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. Again, this is a book that has been everywhere for a couple of years now. This is a biggie in the romantasy world, and again, it's just FOMO. Do I know what it's about? No. Do I intend on finding out what it's about? Probably not. But might I read it? Probably, maybe. Just to see what everyone's talking about. I think it's a fantasy world kingdom. That's all I've got for you. Book. Another option, a different angle, less fantasy, would be Copper Script by KJ Charles. This one came out summertime last year, and I actually got this one signed when I met KJ Charles at Rare in London. She was absolutely lovely. This book is a historical about a policeman who has to team up with a handwriting expert for a case. And then we have another one that has been lurking on my TBR, The Mimicking of Known Successes by Malka Ann Older. This is one that has been on my sci-fi month TBR twice now. I think it's a sort of Sherlock Holmesian mystery set in space with sapphic characters. It's a novella, so I have absolutely no excuse for not having got to it by now. March's prompt is movement on the cover, so very specifically any figures on the cover have to be doing something very active. They have to be moving. And that seems like an easy prompt, and I really struggled with it. I struggled with this one. So what I have got, they're not my favorite picks. I don't know that they really convey movement the way I want them to, but this is what I have at the moment. I have Villain by Natalie Zena Walshotz. This is the sequel, the long-awaited sequel to Hench. Hench I only actually read last year, but I loved it. I always want to love superhero books, and I don't know why they just don't work for me. There's no reason to. I used to be such a comic book person when I was a kid. I was so into DC Comics, and then I really enjoyed all the Marvel movies until, you know, a while back. Comics, superheroes have been my jam, and I don't know why books, they just never click. But I really enjoyed Hench. I don't know whether it was that it came in with a more grounded angle or whether it was just a more cynical angle, but I really enjoyed it. I don't know that I felt like it needed a sequel, but because there is one, I will be reading it. This one even less so meets the movement prompt, but I've been meaning to read it for so long that I'm putting it on here because there is a bit of movement. This is A Dark Cold Touch by Megan E. Hart. I loved this cover because it looks older than it is. It looks like the kind of covers you got for these books in the 70s and 80s. We have the girl in the white dress holding a candle. The aesthetic is all over it. This could be any readathon that comes up with a read a book purely on the cover, this would fit for. I love it. The movement, there's some movement. She's just kind of clearly walking down the stair. I don't know. This prompt, we'll see how it goes. April's prompt is accessories. The first one I have for this is Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schultz. This has been on my shelf for so long. I think this might have been, I don't know if I pre-ordered it, but it's definitely been there since it was released. And I've went through phases of wanting to read it, and then people maybe being like, it's maybe been a bit disappointing for them. And then I've considered unhauling it, but then again, I think I really do think I'm interested in it. But then have I went past the YA phase? I don't know. But this cover has like a stack of accessories. Supposedly this is a murder mystery fantasy world. We're doing that genre blend thing before genre blends were really kicking off. It sounds like something I would really like. This one is The Three Graces by Amanda Craig. This was a bookshop impulse buy. I think it was Argonauts in Edinburgh. They had it on the display table. The idea of it having some kind of mythology connection was really all I needed. I don't really think that mythology connection is there the way I thought it was once I had a better look at the book. It says it's about 3 very different friends who are, I guess, trying to seize the day and live their best lives. So this one has the classic picture of the Graces, but with sunglasses and accessories added on, which I thought fit the prompt quite well. For May, the prompt is to read something that has a border design around the edges of the book. So the first one up for that would be A Beautiful Evil by B. Fitzgerald. Is it a cheat if I'm actually currently reading this book? Maybe it is, but I do love B. Fitzgerald's covers, so it would make sense to read one for a cover prompt challenge. This one, I can tell you because I'm reading it, is about Pandora and Epimetheus. Pandora is the first ever human. She is created by the gods. Her sole purpose is to love this man. When she is gifted to him, he doesn't want her. He's been told by his brother Prometheus that him accepting her as a gift will lead to the downfall of the world, of humanity. And so where I am now, we're having a bit of a Beauty and the Beast-ish, grumpy, sunshiny, in a house together moment. I'm having a good time with it. If I decide not to count that for the border challenge, some other options I have would be Death on the Caldera by Emily Paxman. I love this cover. It's just stylized, I want to say like Art Deco. This, I think, is doing that Agatha Christie trapped on a train murder mystery, Murder on the Orient Express type of thing, with maybe more of a fantasy angle to it. Again, the genre blend. The fantasy murder mysteries are my thing. So again, I'm really high hopes, very, very high hopes. June is Wings, and so the first one I might read is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. I've been meaning to reread for a while. I really loved all the books in the series. I think there's 5 in the main series, and then there's one that kind of comes like a generation or 2 later. I would call it maybe light academia, in the vein of the Emily Wilde books, but not as cozy. There's more of, I would say, an adventure angle to it. This is about Lady Trent. She is an older woman who is telling you the story of her past when she was young, and she was a naturalist who went out and studied specifically dragons. In these books, dragons are treated very much like an everyday sort of animal, and it's the adventure she has while she is out exploring very isolated regions looking for specific breeds or subbreeds of dragon. I guess it kind of reminds me a little bit of something like The Mummy, maybe, but maybe slightly less comical. I also have How to Date a Griffin by Lana Cole. This obviously is a contemporary paranormal gay romance. This one I picked up, I think, at Edinburgh's Rare, so like 2 years ago now, 18 months ago now. I got it from the author, it's signed. I picked this one. I think it's in a series where all the books are standalones. This isn't the first in that series, but hopefully that's not going to matter. And then this is maybe a cheat, but just it's trying to encourage myself to read books that I know I want to read, but I just keep not getting around to. It does fit the prompt. Does it fit the prompt as well as the other two? Maybe not, but there are birds on the cover, so there are wings. I loved Tanya Huff's vampire PI detective books back when, I don't know, my early 20s, and then she released a cozy horror last year, Direct Descendant, which I absolutely loved. So this, I think, is more a high fantasy story from her that came out back 2022. So Into the Broken Lands by Tanya Huff, I would like to push forward, and again, this might be the motivation I need. July's prompt is A Metallic Element. This one did take me a minute because I wasn't sure if we meant like it had to have, say, like a weapon on the cover or a knife, you know, something, but it's actually a metallic element in that some physical books this might be foiling, but even if it's, you know, not actual foiling, it should be that the design choices make it look like it is a metal element, like it could be foiled, if that makes sense. The one I have picked for this is one that it was a cover by, I think I got this one in Toppings, and it was pretty. That was that. It was pretty. This is A Woman of Opinion by Sean Lusk. I know It says that it is giving a voice to a tragically unremembered but pioneering poet and feminist, Mary Wortley Montagu. I think I've talked about the Raven Scholar already today, although I can't remember for what prompt, so we won't discuss it again, but the Raven Scholar part of this to me looks like it could be a metallic element. And then The House of Monstrous Women by Daphne Fama. Again, that text to me looks like it is a metallic element. This is a gothic horror about a woman who is drawn to the maze-like home of a childhood best friend. It's set in the 80s in the Philippines. I think it sounds like it would be a really, really good one, really immersive, and I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so August's prompt is damage, which, I mean, I could damage a book without too much hassle. So the damage, the damage has to be part of the design. And honestly, this was a struggle. So the one that I have that's maybe leading the pack on this is Tempting is Hell by Kathy Yardley. I loved Kathy Yardley's role playing, but I've not read any of her other romances. I've wanted to read more of her books, but just none of the summaries have really grabbed me, whereas this one does. And the dagger is stabbing into the stack of papers, the book, whatever it is on that cover, so that would count. Or my other option is that I am planning, have been planning, will be trying to read / start some Stephen King this year. It'll be my first time reading Stephen King, and there are some new release books of Stephen King's that have this kind of weathered, that have this kind of weathered, you left the book in the bathtub type of edge damage. Obviously the book isn't damaged, but it's kind of printed to look like it's damaged. So I don't know if the books that I would like to try by Stephen King all have this design on them. So I don't know, like the one I'm most excited to pick up, the one I think I'm going to read first, is Salem's Lot, and I don't know if Salem's Lot has this type of design on it, but I don't know, we'll need to see. This might be one that I decide later in the year and kind of just catch up with. The ones that really do fit this design vibe would be Cujo, Christine, or Pet Sematary, none of which were on my kind of top priority list for Stephen King, but maybe, you never know, maybe I'm gonna love the first couple and just fly through his backlist, who knows. September's prompt is Fire and Smoke. The first book I have for this is Matt Dinniman's Operation Bounce House. I've been so excited about this one. I've been loving, like everyone else in the world, right? I've been loving Dungeon Crawler Carl last year. I'm at number, I want to say number 6, but I could be wrong. Round about there. Operation Bounce House is not a Dungeon Crawler Carl book. This is a standalone book, but it does seem like it's got some similar elements. This is about a farm colony that I guess have been rather isolated for however long. They've been really looking forward to contact from Earth, especially our protagonist who just wants to, you know, make music with his band and live his life. It turns out that Earth's government has decided it is claiming this land back, and to do it they have brought in a big corporation who have decided that the cheapest way is to kind of sell the rights for, you know, the evictions to players on Earth who are gonna do it through drones and gameplay. And our protagonist obviously will be fighting back. Then a kind of more realistic fire and smoke design, we have Sinful Crimes for the Artistically Inclined by W.H. Lockwood. This is a paranormal urban fantasy about a Catholic priest and a historian. It is on the longer side for this type of book, but the blurb says that it's really fast paced, there's lots of action, and I've heard really good things. October's prompt is Doors, Locks and Keys. First up I have Starcrossed by Elizabeth C. Bunce. I've read from this author before and I've really enjoyed her books. This one I bought last year, planning to read it for one of the R Fantasy bingo squares, and I ended up reading something else instead. But this is a young adult novel. It is about a thief, and what intrigued me about it was the religious world building, the gods that were involved in the story. I think there's going to be like quite a lot of fantasy world politicking, which again is just one of my absolute buy it buzzwords. So I had high hopes. I have very high hopes for this. I just didn't get to it in time. I think of the books on this list for this prompt, this is probably the one I'm going to go for, but I do have some alternates as well. League of Liars by Astrid Schultz. This is the same author that wrote Four Dead Queens, so if I like one, then maybe I'll read the other. This is about 4 teens who are caught up together for illegal magic use, planning the ultimate jailbreak. Then this one is a very new release. It just came out in October. The Emperor's Kindness by Chaz Brenchley. It's a sort of cozy political fantasy, a fantasy of manners, which is something that I feel you don't get a lot of anymore, but I really enjoy. I'm thinking things like Sword Point or the Asterant series that I've just started. These books where the action and adventure isn't maybe the main part. These tend to be quite, I don't want to say low stakes books, but quite involved in the day-to-day intricacies of running your fantasy empire. Thinking things like the Goblin Emperor, the Hands of the Emperors, lots of emperors now I think about it. But this one sounds really, really good. It sounds like the kind of thing I would really enjoy. November's prompt is reflection, so this can be taken 2 ways. Either it could be a book that has literally like a kind of mirror image on the cover, or it could be you seeing a reflection of something in something on the cover. So if you had maybe someone standing looking at a pond and you could see the reflection in the water, then that would count as well. So the books I have for this cover both those angles. The first one is Bless Your Heart by Lindy Ryan. This is a is 1999 historical? Oh god. I think it's a historical. Set in Texas, set in a funeral home. It's a multi-generational women family story. They run a funeral home together, and there are vampires. It sounds amazing. And obviously you can see the flames reflected in her sunglasses on this particular cover. Then The Antlered King by Marianne Gordon has more that kind of mirror image thing I was talking about. We have the flowery, thriving antlers up above and the darker, not thriving ones below. This is the second part of a duology. What was the first one? The first one was The Gilded Crown, and it was such a surprising 5-star read for me last year. I read it as part of a NetGalley knockout thing to whittle down some of my arcs. I picked 5 and this ended up being the one book that I continued with. It's about a necromancer who ends up working for the royal family, kind of making sure that no harm comes to them. And we have some very, very morally grey protagonists in this series. Our main character has a kind of sapphic romance, but it's not a very romancy romance, if that makes sense. Really, really good, really kind of complex, lots of religious things happening. Really enjoyed the first book, meant to go straight into the second book, never got around to it. I would really, really, really like to wrap up this duology this year. And then December's prompt is music, and Kayla says in her announcement video, that she thought this was a great pick for December because everyone's wanting to read all these cozy seasonal romances, musical instruments on the cover, you know, people carrying guitars, all that would fit in and it would be quite easy. This was not easy for me. I do not like books about musicians. I don't know why. I don't know why, but I don't like books about musicians. I don't particularly like books about music. So I really, really struggled with this one. But I did find a couple of things, so we're going to talk about them and maybe I'll find something that fits better over the course of the year. But one of the books from Kayla's recommendations that I do quite fancy is You Won't Forget Me by Maisie Eddings. I have Maisie Eddings' Late Bloomer sitting on my bookshelf, unread. So this is her new book. I'd probably like to try Late Bloomer first since I have it, and if I enjoy that, this is the end of the year, so there would be plenty of time to get to this one. This is about a band and the kind of interpersonal romantic drama happening in there, the media and how that plays into the band's dynamics. Then the one that I'm currently maybe more leaning towards is The Architect of Song by A.G. Howard. This doesn't actually have like an instrument on the cover, but it does have those sheet music, the notes that are flying away, so I think it counts. I've really enjoyed A.G. Howard's fairy tale retellings in the past. She wrote the Splintered trilogy, which was a YA slightly darker take on Alice in Wonderland, and then she had a standalone Stain, which might have been The Princess and the Pea, I can't remember. I really enjoyed them all, they're beautifully written. Have been looking for her to bring out more stuff. This is an original story and it's historical fiction with, I think, more of a paranormal angle to it. This is the one that I think I'm maybe mentally like, you know, penciling it in for here. But if I don't get to it, if I'm not in the mood for it, then the Maisie Eddings one, I'm sure there are other books that will come up, but musical instrument on the covers is definitely one that's stumping me a little. So there you have it. If you're still with me, oh my god, well done. If you're still with me, thank you for staying. This is a very, very rambly TBR. It's very, as I said, very pile of possibilities. I will maybe try and do a kind of check-in video, maybe either midway through the year or just like a wrap up at the end of the year, but I would like to maybe talk about what I do pick to see how many of these reappear and how many disappear and are replaced by something completely unthought of right now. Thank you for watching. Do let me know if you are taking part in the Buzzword readathon. If you are, or if you're not, but either way you have ideas for the musical instrument prompt, then please do let me know that. If you're not taking part in Buzzword, then let me know if you are taking part in any other reading challenges this year. I am trying to be good this year. I'm trying to cut back on these like year-long ones so that I can focus more on monthly readathons and get more of that immediate dopamine. But I could be persuaded. So let me know what you're doing if it's something else so I can go and check it out. And if you don't have any challenges you're taking part in, you don't have any suggestions for books, but you just want to show that you survived this video, then leave me some kind of musical instrument emoji in the comments to taunt me with. I hope you've had a good time with it, and I really hope I'm going to see you in the next video. Goodbye.